Hey, this is Pat with Racket String Tips. Thanks for checking us out today. And I've got a full video today, so I'm just going to dive right in. And I'm going to touch on the 5 different tennis racket stringing machine categories that I feel are the prime categories when you're deciding on upgrading, you're deciding on getting a new stringing machine. So I just want to get right into it. Stay till the end. Lots of good information in here. So before we get to actually talking about machines, I want to talk a little bit about tensioning and some of the terms. And there's some other terms here, so I just want to kind of go over it. Diablo, that's the thing that basically you wrap your string around. Rotational tensioner, some of the gamma machines have that. So it kind of rotates clockwise around the circle, right? Instead of pulling linear. Foot pedal tension activation. Some machines you can push down, and that way you don't have to press the button on the machine. Can you convert from pounds to kilo? That's important, especially if you are stringing at tournaments or you're stringing at places where you're going to have people asking for kilos versus pounds. Manual calibration adjustment, or a machine that can self-calibrate. Diamond coat tension head grip. Diamond coating was always something that when you saw that with the clamps, that was always a good selling point. And so they also have it for the tension head grip. That's where the machine pulls or grabs the string, and so yeah, that's important so it doesn't slip. Is it a knob or dial tension setting, plus minus touchpad, so that you can easily. A lot of these things are kind of things that are preferences. They're not necessarily have to kind of things that you need in order to have a good consistent machine, but they're just those extra little added things that we all like. Do you want a full keypad tension setting? Do you want an LED screen or an LCD screen? Do you want it to be a multilingual touch screen? Are you going to have people who speak other languages on there, and that makes it easier for them? Not tensioning, removable electric tensioner units so that you could take it off and maybe replace it and so forth. Um, are we talking about drop weight machines? We're going to be talking about that. Hand crank, two-sided crank. If you're left-handed, you want to have the crank on the other side. Is it something that you can change over? Usually it's fairly simple. You just take the handle off, put it on the other side. But there might be some machines that don't actually have it on the lockout type machines. Is it electric pull? Does it beep on or off as you're getting to the end, or every time do you have a choice of turning off the beep? Multiple speed pulls, especially if you're pulling different types of string, multi-filaments, or you're pulling natural gut. Do you have that option on there? And then we're talking about constant pull. What's that? Lockout machines, pre-stretch feature, the linear pull instead of the rotational pull, self-elevated pull. That's where you're going to have the machine actually, instead of pulling the string to wherever the Diablo is, which could sometimes be at a little bit of an angle, this is going to bring up um, the linear pole to a horizontal even field, so that you're pulling evenly and no chance of doing any damage, and it just makes it cleaner. Then let's talk about clamps. We got flying clamps. We got fixed clamps on glide bars, dual swivel action, double action fixed clamps, dual swivel, single action fix. Some of these things, there might not be a lot out there, but just to give you an idea, there's all these different things that you can be thinking about when you're looking at stringing machines. Diamond dust clamps, kind of like the diamond dust on the pole system on the linear pole. Automated base release clamps. Or what about a no tool needed to adjust clamps? That way if you need a tool, then you have to go get that tool, grab that tool and then adjust your clamps. It's a lot easier when you need to just make a little adjustment that you can do it without having a tool. Okay, let's talk about mounting. Two-piece mounting, four-piece mounting, two-piece, two-point mounting, four-point mounting, six-point mounting. Is there a turntable lock? And then, of course, there's also, is not just, is it a lock, but then is there a turntable speed control? Is there a brake action on it? So that way it's turning, but yet it's not just going to keep spinning. So it's got a friction um, option to it. The Biardo that I used to have was like that. The Biardo has some options for you when you're doing the rotation on the turntable. Can it turn 360 around, or does it, when you have a racket on it, does it end up stopping at your tensioning device, and then you have to go all the way the other way around to continue that? All those kinds of things. And then there's, of course, some of the extra features. Does it have a tool tray? Is there a cover included? Is there a cover available? What about a string measure so that you can measure a certain amount of feet? Some of the machines have that. I know some of the Gamma machines for sure. Built-in ruler. Is there an automatic ruler so you can just kind of measure your string right on your machine? I mean, a lot of these things you can like put together yourself later on. You don't need it, but if it's on the machine, it's a nice feature. Is there a reel rack? So sometimes just to put 3 4 of your reels right on your machine, so some of your common strings right there. What about a racket stand? Does it come with one? um, and Racket stand, or more, that should probably be machine stand. Does the machine sit on a cabinet? Does the machine sit, do you have to sit it on a table? Does it have a stand? Can you take it off the stand and put it on a table? All those kinds of things. Those are some things that are nice to have. Do you want a machine that's under 50 pounds? Maybe between 50 and 75 pounds? Or what about over 75 pounds? A lot of the professional grade constant pull electric machines are definitely over 75 pounds. And then if you have hydraulics in the lift, then that's really going to add a lot. The Biardo, I think it was 60 pounds just for the stand lift itself. All right, and then at the end, we're going to talk about clamps. We're going to talk about diagonal cutters, needle nose pliers, a guiding awl, flying clamp, assembly instructions, owner's manual, bent nose pliers, assembly tools, blunt awl string straightener. All those things we're going to hit on. But let's get right into talking about machines and what's out there. So I don't really know what category to put this first one, so I just called it the DIY, do it yourself kind of category. When I saw this, I was going like, yeah, this is it looks almost like a homemade kind of thing. But you know what? It works. If you have to just string a racket, you can get this, I think, for probably a couple $100 or less. If you buy it straight from China, AliExpress or something, I think you can get it pretty cheap. It uses, as you can tell, for the drop weight, it uses a barbell that you use for exercising, and it looks like it holds the racket at 6 point mounts, and then you would just use some flying clamps. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I think if I was stringing a badminton racket, I would feel a lot more confident using something like this because, badminton rackets are only going to go to about 20, 22 pounds, right? So it's not as big of an issue to go to 60 pounds, 65 pounds. But that is one option. Anyways, the next thing is the Pro Stringer. I don't know if you've seen this. It's a box, and everything comes in a bag that's not very big. So it's great for portability, for traveling. If you're a player or a coach or a parent of a junior, this might be an option because, and it is electronic and it doesn't take up much room. It's going to run you anywhere from $1,100 to like $1,400, depending on what features you get. You can get it with a 2 point mount. You can get it with a 6 point mount. I think a 4 point mount too. The clamps seem pretty um, uh, modern, and the clamps I think are pretty advanced. I know they're just flying or floating clamps. I actually bought a couple because I'm going to use them when I'm teaching on a machine that has floating clamps. I want to compare because I think these are supposed to be some good clamps. They're fairly expensive, but um, and so yeah, you can see the rotational tensioning system right here. And yeah, so this is called Pro Stringer. They have a website as well, and so you can check that out. But that's like, if I think if you're traveling, you want something that has portability, that easily fits into a closet. You live in a small apartment, those kind of things. So yeah, that's one option. But let's just get into some of the main categories. So the first category that I'm going to talk about are just drop weight machines. So you've got the real basic ones. They have flying, you can call them flying clamps or floating clamps, kind of the same thing. They're flying because they're just kind of like in the air, right? They're not fixed to anything. But then you can also upgrade drop weight machines to actually to 6-point mounting. So you have a better mounting system, and you can also have fixed clamps. And so I'm going to start talking about that a little bit. So here you basically have two machines that are some of the basic drop weight machines. And they both work on a linear, I'm sorry, they both work on a rotational um, tensioning head, because once you put the string through there, it and then the weight comes down, it's a rotational pull, right, with that string. And as you can see, you have to use floating clamps with these because there are no fixed clamps. It's just two mounting points on basically a piece of metal, fixed piece of metal. They're fixed on that. They adjust to the size of the racket, but that's about it. There's nothing, no other points to that. And I have a close up here of one, so you can kind of see. You can adjust, yeah, the length of the racket, and then on top you just have 2 points where it connects to your frame, 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock. So that's not as good as 6-point mounting, right? But this is your basic entry level machine that gets the job done. You have a little tray here to put your tools, and then of course you've got your rotational string gripper right there, and then the weight just kind of comes down. So then let's say you wanted to upgrade. There's a couple options here. You can upgrade your turntable. Now again, you're not going to necessarily be able to upgrade the machine that you're currently using to some of these features. You will have to most likely upgrade to a higher model altogether. Sometimes there are options, especially when you get to this level. You could possibly upgrade a few things at this level, but most likely you're going to have to, be willing to go a little bit further. So you can see here that on the one on the lower, or I'm sorry, the upper left, you have a turntable. So it's going to mount on 6 different points. You have 3 adjustments on both sides. So really, you're adjusting all 6 of those points. So you start with the middle, and then you bring in the sides, and so you do have to adjust all 6 with the knobs. But you have a linear pull. It's no longer the rotational. You're actually going to be putting the string on a linear, and as the weight comes down, and then it pulls. Now you still have the floating clamps on that green one, but then if you look at the Turna model in the upper right, you can see now you've got your linear um, tensioner, and then you also have a 6-point mount, and you have fixed clamps. So that's like a whole nother level up, right? So now you have a turntable where the clamps are fixed. It's a little bit more consistent. You have 6-point mounting, but again, you still have to adjust with 6 points. So there's a lot of models between all of these different types of machines. You're going to find other versions of some of these machines I'm talking about. I can't like have every single machine on this video, but I just wanted to kind of show, hey, these are some of the prime options, and a lot of them fall into these categories. So I have a picture, like a close-up of this one. So this one still has the floating clamps that you have to use, but you can see the 6-point mounting, and you can see the linear drive tensioner there. So, and here is the Turner model, which looks a little bit nicer, right? You have the nice, you have regular fixed clamps, and they look like they're self-adjusting, and then you lock the base and so forth. So if you wanted a drop weight machine, but you wanted to go as far to the next level, something like this would be a great option. And then you can actually take this machine and you can upgrade it to an electronic version. And there are 2 options that I know of. There's probably a few more as well. You can use the Turna, it's the Wise um, uh, 2086 electronic pull mechanism that you can attach to this machine. It also attaches to a lot of the lockout machines as well. Or down below, you see there's a Turna model, which Costs a little bit more. It's like $1,100, I think, just for that electronic unit, but it looks pretty solid as well. It's a little bit more modern, sleek looking, and again, it's a linear pull. And so here's a close up of the tennis head to 2086 professional, and it has basically all those features that you need on an electronic machine. And you have the linear pull, and then you have the button. And this is a nice. I think this is a pretty nice setup. And so you can upgrade. You can see on the bottom there how it's actually connected to the Turna. And when you buy it, you also buy the mounting bracket that comes with it for certain models of machines. Now, because the one down below, the Turna model, is specifically designed to fit on the Turna, you might be able to. There's also some that you can convert to using with Gamma machines and other maybe Alpha machines and other ones as well. Some of the standard ones, but you can see you can take this pretty far. And so now all you've upgraded your machine to 6-point mounting, to fixed clamps, to a nice computer setup. But if you want to just go, whoops, I went too far. Let me go back. So the next level up would be what we call the lockout manual crank machines. And so there's lots of versions of that, but generally it is a little bit more of an upgrade. So you're probably going to start with the 6-point mounting and the fixed clamps, as you can see in these three models. And they have like a tray on the middle there. They're on stands, and so you can easily, I mean, they have tabletop versions of these as well, but you can see that they also have a tray kind of in the middle of the stand, so you can put all your tools there. And this is where we're talking about, if you're left-handed, you'd want to have that crank on the other side. So generally there's a way that you can just take off the crank and then put it on the other side if you're left-handed. And there's going to be a variety of options as far as the clamps, like better clamping, if you're using badminton, certain clamps for that, and then also the base lockout units and stuff. And so you can see a little bit of a close-up here. And these kind of machines, you can definitely put like the 2086, the Wise electronic. You can make all these electronic by, and you basically take off the crank system, and then there's a bracket that you attach to that, and then you would put the Wise machine on there, and you could see how that would work. And this, of course, is 360 rotational kind of machines and so forth. Um, and again, this one has two knobs, as you can see on the turntable, right? So now you're adjusting the big knob, you're adjusting um, the outer four points that attach to your racket, and then the smaller one on top generally is going to adjust the 6 and 12 o'clock. So this is a kind of a nice upgraded machine. After that, we start moving into the electronic constant pole machines. And so I put these in just the electronic constant pole, and you can see that that Gamma machine in the upper left, actually there's different models of that, and the higher end model has quite a lot of features. But I just put that into this category just because it kind of just fits the electronic constant pole model, but it may be not quite a professional model, meaning it doesn't have all the upgrades and so forth. And then you have the Gamma down below that has a rotational um, pole instead of a linear. And then you have the one there in the upper right, which is a pretty nice constant pole, and that actually sits on a table. I think you can also get a stand for it, but that one right there, you can sit on the table. Good for hotel rooms. Now it's a little bit harder to travel with these machines. You do have to have a bigger case to put these in and so forth, a professional case. But these are just some options. There's lots of options, I think, that fit into electronic constant pole machines. And I'm not sure if I would consider these entry level, but they're kind of, a step above entry level for sure. But there's lots of different things that you might find in some of these machines. Some have some features, some have other ones, but you're going to have to pay more if you want all the features. Um, I'm also preparing a kind of a list of all the different features, and then you can mark on there what you would like to have. It might help you to kind of get a visual of what you really want, and then you can start searching from that. It's a nice little added extra if you're watching this video. So then let's move into the professional constant pull. Now I'm not talking about tournaments where the machines you're going to see at tournaments. I'm just talking about professional um, constant pull machines that are great at home, a shop, a club, and Turna has a couple. You can see a few here. There's other models as well. I just use these because you can see they have advanced clamping systems. They have advanced mounting systems. They have lots of features. The pull systems are nice. So that's kind of one level down before. Now, again, some of this is my opinion. You might say, oh, well, you could use these at a tournament. Well, of course, yeah, you could definitely use them in a tournament, and they would do the job, and they would be quality enough where they have the consistency, and people really wouldn't know the difference. However, at tournaments, professional tournaments, players almost assume that you have a certain level machine because they're just used to seeing it. They're used to seeing the Yonex one, maybe in Europe. They're used to seeing the head. Solinko also has a team. I didn't have a picture of it here, but or the Wilson Bayardo, which is at a lot of tournaments, right? So those are some standard tournament grade machines, and they're going to have all of those features that we talked about earlier. They're going to make this easy for you to string on. They're very consistent, um, and uh, they are what players expect to see when they walk into the string room to drop off their rackets. I'm not saying that these are used in 100% of the tournaments. No, I'm sure you probably see at some tournaments you might see some of those other machines. It just depends if it's a organized group of stringers or if it's a couple people that got together, put a team together, and are stringing at a tournament. It just depends. But if you have opinion, if you have something that uh, you'd like to share about machines or what you've seen, please leave some comments in the description as well. Next, I just wanted to kind of share what if you go and you look at these machines, they'll have a detailed list of everything that the machine can do. So I pulled this up, and this is for the Head EXTE 3600, which you saw. I believe it's the one that was on this previous page here. I believe that's the one. And so you can kind of see some of the features here. Okay, tennis, squash, badminton, racquetball. Sometimes you might need to use different clamps, or you need to put an adapter in for some of those smaller rackets like badminton. 6-point mounting. Okay, that's pretty standard. Adjustment poles with security lock, so that way it stays locked. Automatic brake system for mounting table. Self-elevating linear pole system, so that's where it's going to adjust to the height of the racket and the string on the racket so that it's a nice linear pull. Pre-stretch from 5% up to 20%, pre-stretching the string. Tension increase by 0.1 kilos and 0.1 pounds, not just adjusting it by 1 pound at a time. You can just micro adjust, right? The knot function individual or default setting. You can do 10% to 20% max. Okay, so you can have a knot function. You can make some adjustments to that for those tie-off knots. Adjustable height. This one is a manual adjustable height. So you can adjust the machine, but you're doing it manually. A tool drawer. You've got a USB phone tablet charger. Not as many have these, obviously, because that's kind of a newer feature, but that's nice to have, right? Because we all have our phones, and now we can just have it right on there. Convertible to tabletop, so you can take off the stand, put it right on the tabletop, and work from that. And this one actually has a warranty: 5 years on mechanical parts, 2 years on electric parts. Now that's nice. Whenever I'm always going to recommend buying a brand new electronic pull machine if you are not very familiar with machines, in the sense that you know where to get things fixed, or you could fix it yourself, or the machine is older, 20 years old even, and you're not sure where you're going to get parts if you need it. So it's just nice to know that there's a warranty and the machine's new. It's just some of these machines will last years and years and years, but if you don't have a backup, you never know when it could actually go out, right? So yeah, so that is kind of the basics of machines out there, racket stringing machines, right? But I did want to also kind of talk a little bit about some of the tools that you're going to need. And some of them might come with the machine. Other ones are ones that you're going to want to add on, right? So I'm going to start with the most important here, and that's a starting clamp. You got to have at least one, sometimes two. You use this for 5 or 6 things. You're going to use it to bridge if you measured a little bit too short, you can't reach, the string doesn't reach to the tensioner, you can use this as a bridge. You basically have one string going to it and another string going to the machine from it. You can use clamps when you're pulling, when you're manually stretching string like gut or something and you're pre-stretching it, you're going to use this to hold on to that. You're going to use this for tie-off knots. You're going to use it for instead of a starting knot when you're stringing. This thing has so many features. You've got to have a starting clamp, at least one. Some folks have two, three, and it's just a tool that you're going to use constantly. I use it, every time I string a racket, no matter what. Next thing are the diagonal cutters, and so with diagonal cutters, I mean there are lots of different models of this, and so basically that way you can cut a nice angle on the string. Um, Needle nose pliers. Sometimes you'll use those, but generally I use the angled pliers because needle nose pliers, sometimes if you are pushing string through a hole that might be kind of blocked by a string on the outside and you need a little extra force, you can use needle nose pliers. But generally I will use the angled pliers. I think the bent nose right here, like these right here. I'll use those to kind of bend that in. So that is a needed thing to have there. Guiding awls. You got to have some type of a guiding awl. So if you need to make the hole a little bit bigger or you need to guide a string through, and again, I would use wax with this as well or something so that it's not just cause some friction as you're maybe touching another string and you're going in. Flying clamps or floating clamps, you're going to be using these only if you are using a machine that does not have rails that has fixed clamps on it. Another thing, string straightener, a blunt awl. Got to have one of those. You're going to use that to straighten the strings when you're done with the racket and as you are stringing it. It's the easiest thing, not using your hands and so forth. And so you can see those are just some core. I mean, I didn't list every single tool here, but the ones that I feel are extra ones that you're probably not going to always get with the machine. Some you might. And I know I didn't mention a grommet grinder for grinding out grommets if you need to do repairs and so forth. But as far as for stringing, these are some basic tools that you need. So I think in this 30-minute video, I covered the different categories, the 5 different categories of stringing machines. We went over some terms. We went over some tools that you need. So I hope that this is going to really help you to get an idea of what's out there for racket stringing machines. And if I can be of any help, reach out to me and make sure, in our community, we talk about machines, we talk about tools, where to get them, prices, how to use them. We just started this community recently. I'll leave a link below. I think that's it for this video. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video.